Hey everybody, I hope you are all snuggled up and staying warm during this winter season. I am thrilled to be bringing you my top 10 list of 2022, but just to show you what it's like where I am, as I film this right now, I'm going to put right up here in the corner a live footage of the snow that has been coming down since this morning. It's been going for hours. So this is what I'm experiencing. This is my holidays at the end here in December for 2022 as I celebrate the many board games that I have played this year. So I will let you in on a couple games that are not going to make this list that I'm excited about playing that I just haven't had the chance to play yet. But I also want to tell you I played over 70 titles from 2022 this year. Over 70 games that were just released this year, but here's a list of the games that I haven't gotten to for a variety of reasons that I really am looking forward to or just know I'm going to love. So the first one is Carnegie. Carnegie is right upstairs and I just haven't had a chance to get it down. It's one of those bigger games, but I think I anticipate enjoying it a lot. As well, Vagrant Song looks so cool, and talk about the most just creative, wonderful graphics and artwork. So I think Vagrant Song looks fantastic. I am also looking forward to Horizons of Spirit Island because I really have enjoyed all the different Spirit Islands and expansions. I think it's a fantastic game, and I anticipate enjoying that as much as Clank Catacombs. Now, I am a huge fan of Clank. I also loved Clank Legacy, Acquisitions Incorporated, a ton. So I think that Clank Catacombs, with building your actual catacombs, your Clank journey, sounds dynamite. So I think I'm going to like that. And Argentina, which is part of Great Western Trail. I like Great Western Trail a whole bunch as well. The one thing that we just haven't received yet because they just started fulfilling in the Pacific Northwest is Frosthaven. I know that other people have received their copy. I have not received my copy yet, but I anticipate just loving the snot out of it as I did with Gloomhaven and as I did with Jaws of the Lion. So definitely looking forward to those games, but I just haven't played them yet, so you are not going to see those titles on my top 10. Listen, do you hear that? It's the sound of fresh snow blanketing the northern coast. It's not? There's a delivery person in front of my house right now. With Frosthaven! Ugh! So let's jump right in. I'm going to start with my number 10. Now this game is one that I have played twice, but only partial games of, which is why it's at my number 10. But I think it is a really cool game, and I can't wait to get my hands on my copy of Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Okay, so this is a racing game, and it's just such a clean, wonderful, like pedal to the metal, fun racing game. Sometimes racing games can get really caught up in the minutia or the rules or the this or that. And in this game, it just feels like things are just fun and they're fast and you're playing loose and you're just always gaining. And even if you spin out, even if you crash, there's an opportunity to really catch up, unlike in some games where one player's just out of it and every time they take their turn, it's sad. That doesn't happen here. So players are going to be playing cards from their hand, adding up those numbers to go that many spaces, and they can play as many cards as they want, but they have to shift gears. And so if you want to play 4 cards, you're shifting way up and you're not able to discard those flame cards out of your deck, which you're building. And when you run out of those flame cards, that's bad. You don't want to run out of your flame cards because that's when you really have pushed it too far. But there's like this buffer of these heat cards that keep you kind of in check. So if you're going down, you shift down to a lower gear, you're able to discard some of those heat cards from your hand. And you want to get them out because you want to have your hand and you want to play the choice cards. But there's something else. There's something called stress. And stress is a card that you're never allowed to discard at the end of your turn to draw more cards. You have to play stress to get them out of your hand. And stress is stress because you're not sure exactly what you're going to get. If you play a stress card down on your turn as one of your cards, however many cards you have geared up to play, you have to draw the top card from your deck, and you have no idea what it's going to be. And so you might be driving 0, which there is a card if you want to go 0 speed, or there's a card that goes all the way up, and I think it's 6 is the highest. And oh my gosh, is it thrilling. You play that stress when you really want a big number, and then you flip it over and it's like a 1, and you're like, bow, bow. But it's fun, it's fun, it's fun. And you're driving around, and there's no blocking, essentially. The other thing I don't like about some of these racing games is that if you get behind 2 people who are literally stopped at a juncture, at like a bottleneck, and there's no going around them, and you have the best hand of your life, but you're later in turn order, and it just gets lost, it gets wasted. And I don't like that, and that doesn't happen at Heat. So Heat, Pedal to the Metal, is my number 10. Okay, moving on to my number 9. This game I wanted to like, and I did like. And it's just nice to look forward to a mechanic in a game and then have that mechanic really, really just deliver. So the game I'm talking about is Catherine, the Cities of the Tsarina. And the thing that I was looking forward to the most in this is the card activation row. Players are going to have a top row and a bottom row area in their play area. And at the beginning of every single round, players start with 3 cards. Now in the beginning, you get to select those from your hand and put them down based on your choice. But round to round to round, you're always going to have 3 cards left over on the top row, and you will just simply compress those and move them to the side, and they will stay from the previous round that you played them, or the previous rounds before that, into the next round. And what players do is they look at their cards, and they will select 2. One to place on the top row, they all do it face down, but it's simultaneous, and the other one on the bottom row. And you always have to play a top and a bottom. And you flip over the top card on the top row, and it just sits there. Unless the one you put underneath it flips over, and what it does is it activates the card that's above it as long as it matches the color. And there are just 3 colors in this game, but boy, when you need blue, yellow, or green, and you don't get that in your cards, it's so hard. It's so frustrating. You have to like switch gears. You have to change direction. You have to figure out what you're going to do because you really want to activate the card above it by matching the color. And the reason is because you get to do the thing on the top card, but you also, if you qualify, get to do the thing under the line on the bottom card. And so there are 2 ways you can activate something when you put a card underneath a card that matches the color. And you simply will be playing down a total of 7 cards on the top row, which means you play 4 cards from your hand, paired with another card in 4 turns. So you go top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. And at that point, it's the end of the round. 3 cards are going to be left over. And those 3 cards have symbols, and they have images of things that give you resources and books and cannons. And it helps you with the ongoing majority bonus. So there's just a ton of stuff to love in Catherine. And I'm not even talking about the other stuff. There's a board where you get to move around and add your tokens to show your routes. That's another way to score. And if you want to have more cards in your hand and you want to have a higher multiplier, you've got to move up on this track on this side. And that allows you to have more cards to carry over into future rounds. It is a delightful 45-minute mostly card game. If you open up the box, it's pretty empty inside because it's cards, little bits, and then a board that you put in the center for everybody to essentially share and to move around in. Just a stunning game, and I like it for the card system, which is that activation row and the top row. It just is so, so cool. My number 8 pick is just full of theme and just diving in. This is a game that takes a long time to play. It is my father's work, and boy is this a fun game. It's got an app that drives the story and the plot and also the character development because players will put into the computer, into your app, the name of your character, which is essentially your family dynasty. And your family will receive messages and opportunities to do certain things in a very light role-playing like method or system. And it keeps track of all those things, and it knows what everyone's choices are and gives you an outcome at the end of this 2 to 3 hour story scenario. And the one we did was just the very first one, which is about disease and plague. So players are taking on the role of this family, and they have all these little figures that they will use, these miniatures, to go into locations in their mansion that allow them to work on science experiments and carry on my father's work as you pass down in 3 phases of the game, 3 generations of your family. And it's just the coolest because these bits and just the feel of the game and the look of the game is just so lovely. I love all the different bins with everything in it. And I also like that you go not just in your own mansion, but you can go down to the town. And as the game continues in just one sitting, in one mission, one scenario, this town will continue to change as you and the other players at the table affect it. And so you'll go through all these different iterations of the town, and the town is where you actually get resources and opportunities to do things and to change your story. But the game itself is fun. It's that worker placement and resource management game with just a lovely story built all the way around it. And while I've only played that very first scenario, I look forward to the others that are in the game because there's still so much more to explore. And I had such a good time as just a 2-player game. I think the game will take longer if you add more players to it. So if you have some friends who want to spend a nice Saturday afternoon playing games, then do my father's work, because you're going to sit down and it's just going to be a whole event. But I think playing it 2 players was just fine. I really, really enjoyed it that way. The concept behind my father's work, along with the mechanics and the actual pieces with the app, meld perfectly and make just a thoroughly enjoyable game, which is why it made my top 10 list. Okay, folks, we are just moving right along, and I can't wait to share with you my 7, because this is it just surprised me. And right now I'm looking at my list and I'm still surprised again, but I can't knock it off my list and I can't bump it down any, because I actually think this game does deduction and it has a 2-team aspect to it that a lot of games just can't do, and I like it a whole bunch. The game is Sniper Elite, the board game, and I like it. I like it, and I have to tell you that Eagle's Nest, as the expansion that goes with it, gotta have that, because it adds more boards, it adds more locations, and it adds more stuff, characters, cards, bits and pieces that really make the game super replayable. And I also wholly appreciate the solo experience of Sniper Elite. So what is this game? It is a deduction game where one person at the table is the sniper, and they are going to run around, but have a little board themselves where they keep track of where they are and how close they are to the opponents. And then everybody else at the table is going to play all of these different teams of German officers, and they are going to run around trying to find me, who is hidden. So we've got this hidden movement game, and I have these objectives as the sniper to accomplish. And if I can accomplish both of my objectives before being killed twice and or running out of time, which is 10 rounds per objective, then the sniper wins. And if those officers with their teams of dogs and other kinds of really cool features find the sniper and then of course shoot him twice, then it's over. And there's just some really, really, really cool features because you've got to be super sneaky. I love games that ask you to try to outthink your opponents, even though I find it to be wholly challenging. I'm always second guessing myself and wondering if I should do deception, double deception, triple deception, which is just back to deception. But it's just a super, super fun way to play a game. And again, 45 to 60 minutes, nice hour-long game. And it's super replayable with more advanced rules as you get to different kinds of locations that have really, really cool features. And I think it's just super fun, super intense. Like my heart could just, like, I lose a couple years of my life every time I play because I get so like scared and intense and anxious. But I like that feeling. I like that feeling a whole bunch, and Sniper Elite, the board game, absolutely gives it to me. Okay, everybody, we are at my 6th pick, and this game is one that I made a video for this year, and I just couldn't even keep back all my excitement in the video. I was crazed, I was crazy, and I just couldn't get enough of Caesar's Empire. This game is crazy good, and it scales so well. From 2 to 5 players, it's got a 2 to 3 player side, then it's got the 4 to 5 player side. You just flip the board over and the map gets bigger, and there are 2 more colored regions that have tokens and stuff that you use. But the idea behind this is set collection and route building. And with just those 2 basic mechanics, you've got a game. And this game is so good. Like, I can't get enough of it. It is like right there in the middle of my top 10 because I would play this game with any newbie, with any first-time player, and they would get it. They would get it right away and have a fun time playing it. So it's a fantastic entry-level game. It's a fantastic starter or ender of the night, and it's so shareable. And players get to hold these big old chunky ship bits, and you get to like put them out on the board, and then every player has their own board where they collect all of their goods and resources and gold. But the game is just easy. Every player, you just turn order, and on your turn, you will place 1 or 2 of your colored pieces, your ships or your legs, out in one journey, one leg from one city to the next. That's it. That's all you do. You just go boom, you place 1, and then you take the token from the city you just went to, if there is one, and then you will count how many legs back to Rome, and every player will get points for all of their legs. So if I have 3 on the journey, and then my opponent has 1, then I get 3 points, they get 1 point. And so you're going to be getting these tokens that are for regions, but you're also going to be getting these resources that you put down on your player board. And the more you get of one kind, the more points you get, and the variety gives you a bonus as well, gives you more victory points. It's so easy. Turns are so fast, and it's just fun. It's addictive, and I can't get enough, and I think Caesar's Empire is just a lovely half-hour game. And it's a game. It's fun. It's so fun. Oh, everybody, we are halfway through my list. I am just so excited about all these games. I'm loving it. I loved calling my list. So let's move right on to number 5. And I promise you that this is not intentional, nor is it a theme for my list. But this one shares part of the name with my previous game, my number 6 game. It is Caesar! Seize Rome in 20 minutes. And I just love the way this game works. There's some lovely drafting, like bag drafting, as you pull out the tokens that you want to use on your turn. And you have to keep those tokens secret because the board in the center is just between you and your opponent. This is a 2-player game. There is a solo variant, but I like it 2-player the most. So 2-player, you will play one of your tokens, and your token goes between 2 different regions because there's going to be a line across the token that you have. And it's going to say a number on one side, and it's going to say a number on the other side, and it's going to be a particular type, meaning it's a boat, or it's a frond as a wild. It might be the shield symbol. So there are different symbols. You have to place it in a matching symbol, and you have to play with a number on one side of the border and a number on the other, which means that's your strength for that particular region. Now, once a region gets filled up, meaning there are no more spaces to put discs on the actual border, it's scored. Now, 2 things happen. The player who puts that final token on the border gets a bonus token. Yay! It's so cool. Just by going there, you get it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to win the region, though, because then you add up the numbers, and if I have more value than my opponent, I win that region, and I get to place one of my province tokens, one of my, like, here's ownership of this particular place. I put mine down there. And there are bonuses for winning regions that are adjacent to your region. You want to do that by placing another disc out. And the whole thing is just get rid of all of your ownership discs first. Whoever places their last one out, fantastic. But there's another way to get rid of these these ownership tokens, is by doing the Senate action. And that's one of those super cool bonus chits that you get if you close off a region. There's so much to love about this game. It's simple, it's streamlined, it just has everything in it. And built into the game are extra discs that do extra cool, super juiced up things. So if you play this and you play, and you're like, I want to do something different, add those other discs. Great. You've already changed up the game and it's all built into the main box. So for me, Caesar sees Rome in 20 minutes, absolutely does it in 20 minutes. Unlike Blitzkrieg, which was the game that came before it, I think that Caesar just absolutely knocks it out of the park. I couldn't ask for anything better in a lovely battle, 2-player, 20-minute game. Now, if there's anything I like more than bag drawing, it's what happens in my next game, which is my number 4 pick. It is Dice Realms. I like Dice Realms. I like it so much, and I just kept playing through the series of the suggested games with combinations of dice in the back of the rulebook, and I just was like, hey, let's just pull it out. Let's just play it, because I can play a game of Dice Realms in 20 minutes. Easy. Because everything is simultaneous. You roll your dice along with the season or winter die, the kind of one die that hurts everyone or helps everyone. And then you just apply your dice to your realm, meaning that you can upgrade the sides of your die. You pop it out and you put a new face in. So you are souping up your dice. It's like a deck builder or a deck curator, because you don't always get more dice, but you get better sides of your die. And so you pop them out and you put cooler things in, which means you're going to get more grain, or you're going to get more gold, or you're going to have more defense, or you're going to be able to re-roll dice. And every time you add 5 new tiles, those are going to give you new sides of a die to totally outfit your dice with. Now, there is a chance for you to earn more dice, and if you pay a whole bunch of stuff, you can get a new die, which is a gray die or one of the white dice. And I think one of them, I'm not sure which one, has all green sides on it, and the green sides are just victory points. So you're going to get a die that just like always is going to give you victory points, which is really, really good, but maybe not like really early in the game. So there's just this figuring out when you want to do, how you want to soup up your dice, how many things do you want to replace, and what are you taking advantage of? Because this game is so fun and fast. You roll your dice, you apply the winter die, then you do your dice, soup them up, pass the die, move on. Now, you do have to pay for all of your dice because they're technically your workers. They're your people in your realm. They're the dice people. And so you have to pay grain every time a winter die is rolled, which is, ugh. I mean, I played Winter is Coming, and I think it was on 3 sides. It was insane. It was like winter almost every time. So it's like you had to really go and get that grain. But every game is different if you play with the different 5 tiles in the combinations that they suggest in the rules. So this game has been endlessly fun and playable. I would pull it out right now and play it. I think it's fantastic. I love sharing it with people, and I love playing it with people who know it. So I just go boom, 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 and I just play. I play so fast, and I have a blast playing it. My number 3 pick on my top 10 list is one that uses polyominoes and has really lovely possibility for asymmetrical characters. It is Planet Unknown. Ooh, this game is so cool. So players are going to take these 2 boards. One board is the Planet Unknown, and there's so many planets in this game. You can play on the basic side, and the basic side is the same for everybody, and I would recommend playing that the very first time you play. But on the back side of this giant stack of boards in the game, all these different planets with all these different configurations and restrictions and rules and stuff, so you can play on that advanced. And then there are factions, and these factions are going to have different tracks, but you can also play on the basic side. Basic side has just basic tracks, and those tracks are resources that you count. And as you move these cubes up, you are going to start getting resources and doing cool things and having opportunities, because what you're doing every turn is there's this really cool Lazy Susan, and it has all these tiles in it, and they're all tiles grouped by size. And so what you do is you turn the wheel, if you're the active player, and you point it towards you, and you get to take from that space. And then where the wheel is pointing at everyone else, they take from that space. And you're going to add that tile to your, well, there's 2 choices because there's an inner ring and an outer ring. You take that tile and you put it into your polyomino board, which is your Planet Unknown. and you're going to start putting things down, and you're going to start activating those spaces, because every time you see that symbol, you get to move up on the track that matches the symbol. You're going to drive trucks around, and you're going to do stuff. Oh, it is so fun. It's so fun. And when I was making this list, I was like, I want to play that again. I want to play it right now. It's in my top 3 because I like it. I want to play it every single time. And it's just fun. You've got the turning it, right? And you're just like, oh, please, please let them turn it one more. Let them turn it one more. And you're like peeking, hoping that they don't pick what you want. And then it goes around and you're like, oh. So you have to kind of change plans. You have to, like flex your strategy. But I've played with the basics on both. I've played with the souped up on both. I've played half and half. It's fun. Every way you swing it, every way you do it. I think the game is just so replayable. And it's that perfect entry-level game too, where you're like, hey, grab a tile, place a tile. You only really get one of 2 choices. And you put it down, and then you just move your track. You're like, hey, look, I got these tracks up here. This is really cool. And sometimes you can draw cards that give you victory points. And other times you just get really cool things. So it's just a nice fusion of those tracks and wanting to ramp up your tracks and get victory points, but also designing this planet with all these really cool polyominoes. Super fun, super cool, absolutely love it. So Planet Unknown is my number 3. As I was compiling this list, I really looked at all the games that I had a great time playing, and I was very surprised, but delightfully so, that so many games on my list were 20 to 30 minutes to play, 45 minutes, right in that range of fast games, like quick games. But they're great, great games. And yeah, my next pick, my number 2, is actually a half-hour game. And again, every time I do this, I'm like, I want to play this right now. It's Get On Board, New York, and London. And you play one side. If you have fewer players, you play the other side if you have more players. And so you can't choose to pick New York or London because it's geared for the amount of players. But the cool thing about this is that every player has a sheet, and their sheet has the same design of legs, like these little wooden sticks that you use to mark your route as you're driving your bus around New York or London. It's just that they align differently with different tickets, because what you're going to do at the beginning of every round is you're going to flip over a bus ticket, and it's going to say bus ticket 6. And then you're going to look at your sheet, and your sheet says bus ticket 6 is like an L shape. You go one leg this way, one leg this way. And you're going to look where you start, and you're going to say, where can I put my leg going one out and one the other way? From which direction, and where can I go to keep my route going all the way around this city, trying to pick up passengers, trying to drop off passengers, trying to take businessmen to their office, trying to, carry all the old grannies around, and all these really cool things. Tourists going to see the sights of the city, and you can never backtrack. You can never come back on your own route, but you are going to run into other people's routes, and it's going to get more expensive for you if you drive down the same route as someone else, because it's getting really thick with traffic, and so it's going to really get you, your traffic route. And you just do that. You just drive snake rules. So again, you can't come back on yourself, and then you're just done after you flip your last ticket over. And you just see, okay, how many people did I do this? How many people did this? How many went to the university? My students. And there are several different ways to score, and each one has just a slightly unique requirement or necessity for you to score. It's just lovely. The artwork is stunning. I love that everybody has a slightly asymmetric system or start on their player board, but the game is fun. It's so fun, and I don't know if I've ever won it, but I really, really like Get On Board. All right, everybody, before I get to my number 1, I just want to tell you a couple games that just missed the list, and I just think are really something special, but there's always a top 10 for a reason. So a couple of the games that missed my list were Splendor Duel. I think it's a great game. I actually like it just a little bit better than Splendor. And I think it's fantastic that it's just for 2 players, so that means it's probably going to get played a lot more in my house because it's just perfectly geared for 2. So I think Splendor Duel is something special. Another game that I have a video for is Ready, Set, Bet. And I have to say that Ready, Set, Bet was on my top 10 list, but I kept bumping it down mostly because the only time I played an almost full game was with a table full of people, and it was my first time and I loved it. And since then, I haven't been able to get a table full of people around to play it. And I think the game is so much better the more players you have. I think the game is really, really good, but I don't know how often I'm going to play it. And I haven't really generated that much excitement for it because I can't play it. I don't have enough people. You need people to play this game. And so for me, it just is not necessarily going to fit with where, you know, I am and who I game with and all of that. So experientially, it's just not there, but the game is there. So I wanted to mention it because I think it's a fantastically wonderful real-time racing game that just generates so much fun and excitement and joy. So Ready, Set, Bet is a good one. And then lastly, 2 biggies that I got on the table recently that I really enjoyed, but I need to play more games of before I feel comfortable putting it, you know, on a rank or on a numbered system, is Endless Winter Paleo Americans. I really, really enjoyed this game. It's a fantastic deck builder and tile placement with tracks and with action selection. I mean, it's got a lot going on, but it's really, really cool, super thematic, and I think it's just got a lot of expansions packed in there too, and so I think you probably can play a whole bunch of it without ever feeling like it's the same game every time. So I really like that game, but again, I need to play more of it. And then the other game that I've played recently is Wayfarers of the South Tigris. And that game for me was really interesting. I love dice worker placement, and that's really the core in this game, along with building up your player area with all of these different people and locations and all these different things in your player area that you activate with your worker dice. And there's this wonderful movement on the main board that allows you to essentially trigger the end of the game when a player gets to the end of the track. And so it's player initiated, but it does feel like a big old race for sure. It's pretty cool, but I need to play more of it. So with those games kind of out of the way, it's just really good experiences, but for a variety of reasons didn't make my list. I'm ready to move on to my number 1. My top game of 2022 is Lacrimosa. Lacrimosa surprised me, but after I played through it, I just wanted to do it again right away. And it's a nice, juicy, sink your teeth into 90-minute game. Now, I will say that for us, it probably took us about 2 hours the very first time we played it, just because we were learning it and we were playing it and fumbling through it, you know, like figuring everything out. But boy, is it a slick, slick game. So here's what's happening. Players have a player board in front of them with space for 4 slots. Now there are 4 slots on the top of their board and 4 slots on the bottom because on your turn, players are going to have cards that they have in their hand, but they have a deck of 9. You're going to have your cards and you're going to pick 2 cards that you want to use from your hand. You take 1 card and slide it in the top spot of your board. You take the other card, slide it in the other slot of your board, the bottom slot, which means you're activating the top half, and then the bottom half is going to be activated at the end of the round after you play all 4 of your paired cards. Now, why are you doing this? Well, you really just get 4 turns per round, and there are 5 rounds in the game. So you get 20 turns, and that's it. Which it sounds like a lot maybe, but it's not. It's like you always want more turns. Now, when you play a card on the top, it tells you what your action is. And there are 5 major actions in this game, and those actions will allow you to draft more cards or memories into your deck. And you never get more than 9 cards though. You will replace the card that you slid into the bottom with the new card that you just got, which is souped up. It's like better than your start cards. So you're always culling and curating your deck with better cards, but staying at 9. The other thing you can do is collect these opus cards, and these opus cards are going to give you the opportunity to essentially commission an opus or sell it, and those are going to give you different ways to earn victory points. But there's another track in the center if you want to go on the carriage drive, and you're going to go from city to city telling everybody about how wonderful Mozart is, because this game is all about spreading Mozart's joy in life and music. And you're going to activate these city tiles that give you bonuses that help you do other things in the game, or you'll go to some of the bigger places and you'll be able to take those to score at the end of the game. That's super cool. There's a bottom part too, a requiem, and that's where all these weird music notes are, and you've got all these different instruments that are used and all these different like periods or different parts of a requiem or music, and you're going to play those down from your board, which, yeah, give you points, give you opportunities, give you other things. So the game just has this wonderful melding to it where everything fits together and it makes sense, and you're constantly getting just a little bit better round by round by round. There's just enough acceleration of the game. There's bonuses and bonus opportunities every round, and it's just the coolest. There's even the majority bonus in the Requiem at the end of the game that you can never forget about. But the game is just cool. The card selection system and the way that you will craft or curate your deck is just the coolest. I love it. I love it so much. I would play it. I feel like it's rising in my favorites, much like Obsession just kept being so cool to me, and still I like it so much. I feel like that's what Lacrimosa is doing to me. So it's a really, really cool game, and that is my #1 game for 2022. So thank you so much for joining me in all these wonderful, cool games that I got to experience this year. I hope you've played some of these as well and you feel the same, because boy, I would play any of these top 10 right now. Absolutely. Let me know what your games are, your favorite top 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 in the comments below. I love to hear it, because they might be some of the games that I'm really interested in that I just haven't had a chance to play yet. All right, everybody. I will see you in the new year. Bye-bye. The frost won't claim me!